Hello there. Thank you so much for joining us. This is News Channel Nebraska. My name's Eric McKay. Let's take a look at our top headlines today. Beginning in southeast Nebraska, where the family of a man whose body was recovered from the Missouri River this summer is calling for a criminal investigation and better communication with investigators. Dan Swanson has more.
Alex Mayfield's family members organized a candlelight vigil Wednesday on the bank of the Missouri River, where officials found a submerged Jeep and the body of the 43-year-old Auburn man this summer. They have waited 8 weeks since then for autopsy results and are questioning whether the Nemaha County Sheriff's Office is taking the situation lightly.
We know that Alex wouldn't do this to not only himself but to his family as well. We know that there has to be more to it, and we're not going to give up until we get those answers.
Sheriff Brent Lotman said his office has not determined it was an accident. He said they are waiting for autopsy and toxicology reports and will update the family when they have the results. He said a cell phone ping gave authorities a sense of Mayfield's direction of travel, and Nemaha County's experience with the 2010 disappearance of Peru State College freshman Ty Thomas prompted investigators to contact a swiftwater search and rescue crew from the Missouri Highway Patrol. Lotman said communications with the family were ongoing, but the narrative at the vigil had a different tone.
The next day, I just organized another search party.
We just kept searching, and I think that went on for, 4 days before?
Yeah.
4 or 5 days before we were led here because people were saying that the cops were here pulling him out of the river. We had no idea.
Powell said she does not think the sheriff's office took the disappearance seriously from the start because Alex had suffered a brain injury and had made questionable decisions in his past. She says a private investigator was hired but did not receive cooperation. Now, she fears, critical evidence may be slipping away while investigators wait on a cause of death.
They just keep telling us it was an accident.
How do they know it's an accident?
That's a great question.
Very good question. We don't know how they know it was an accident. And as you can imagine, very frustrated. I understand they don't do this every day. I wish that they would let people help. I wish that they'd let the PI help. I wish that the State Patrol was involved. I wish it's
We're wishing for a lot, but even if they gave us a little, we would feel a lot better about this.
The sheriff says closure may come with the final forensic reports. From Brownville, I'm Dan Swanson, News Channel Nebraska.
Staying in southeast Nebraska, firefighters sent to a Nebraska truck stop late Sunday after a burning odor and smoke from the ceiling were reported inside a business. Beatrice rural firefighters sent to the Diamond T truck stop a mile north of Beatrice after 10 p.m. Occupants had been evacuated by the time firefighters got there. Emergency traffic between firefighters and Southeast Communications reported an electrical fire in the building, but there was no open flame. The problem was traced back to a bad electrical fixture, and power was shut off to it. Firefighters left the scene after about an hour. President Joe Biden once again touring hurricane damage in Florida. Earlier this month, Biden toured damage from Hurricane Helene in Florida's Big Bend. Sunday, he was in the Tampa-St. Petersburg region touring damage from Hurricane Milton. This as the president and other leaders have urged Congress to work to pass additional funding for disaster relief programs. Brian Abel has the latest.
President Joe Biden making yet another trip to hurricane-damaged communities in Florida.
I'm here in Florida for the second time in 2 weeks and to survey the damage from another catastrophic storm, Hurricane Milton.
Biden visited hard-hit St. Petersburg on Sunday and met with residents and first responders. It comes just 10 days after the president was in Florida's Big Bend region surveying the damage caused by Hurricane Helene. He encouraged those affected by the storms and saying it's time to put politics aside.
In moments like this, we come together to take care of each other, not as Democrats or Republicans, but as Americans.
Biden has frequently been in touch with Republican leaders, including the governor of Florida, Ron DeSantis. The visit comes as the president and other leaders urge Congress to pass additional funding for disaster relief programs.
We need Congress to act swiftly to fund FEMA and specifically its disaster relief fund because hurricane season is not over.
Biden also announced a major funding to help those impacted by the storms.
Today, I'm proud to announce $612 million to 6 new cutting-edge projects to support communities impacted by Hurricane Helene and Milton.
That funding will be used to help enhance and upgrade the nation's power grid. Nearly 1 million people across Florida still remain without power. Brian Abel reporting.
Meanwhile, Nebraska Task Force 1 is heading home. Lincoln Fire and Rescue announced over the weekend that the team has been demobilized and will be returning to Nebraska soon. About 73 members were deployed to help amid the aftermath in Georgia and North Carolina. Then last week, additional crew members were sent to North Carolina. Over 24 were then deployed to Florida to help in the aftermath of Milton. Now, the Food and Drug Administration now working to address a shortage of 3 drugs after a major manufacturer significantly affected by the hurricanes. That impacted facility, Baxter International's North Cove site. It's just east of hard-hit Asheville, North Carolina. It's one of the largest manufacturers of intravenous fluids and dialysis solutions in the U.S. Last week, the FDA said Baxter International was limiting supply of IV fluids, but now the agency has announced the Dextro 70% IV solution, lactated Ringer's IV solution, and peritoneal dialysis solution are not commercially available in adequate supply to meet the national demand. The shortage has led some hospitals across the U.S. to ration their supplies and even postpone some surgeries. A Central Nebraska Public Library is commemorating its birthday. Ana Ruth Lugo Mejia has more.
For 25 years, Celine Swan has been involved with one of the oldest libraries in Nebraska, and now she gets to celebrate its 140th year.
I remember going to the old library downtown. That's the old Carnegie building. It's down by Wave Pizza on the corner there. I remember going to that library when I was a child. And Roberta Lowry was there. She was the librarian.
Years later, Celine Swan is the director of the Grand Island Library, and she's leading efforts to celebrate the library's 140th birthday.
I've always been connected and loved libraries and reading, so I'm pretty excited to be part of this day.
The city's first library opened in 1884. It was housed in a law office, and the original collection contained 87 single volumes and a few several volume sets. After a stint at City Hall, the library got its own building in 1903.
President Theodore Roosevelt came on a train and did the groundbreaking, and we have the shovel in our heritage room back there in the genealogy room. In a glass case, there's a spade in there that's gold, and that's the one that he used to break through the ground.
The library opened in its current location in 1974. Swan thinks the library now it's more of a community center, a place where everyone feels like they belong. She says it's important for libraries to keep changing with the times while continuing to be free to use.
I just can't imagine libraries going away. I just think it's amazing that, these libraries and institution that's just it's just so important. It's in everybody's hearts. When you ask people why they come to the library, what they love about the library, usually it's like, oh, I love books or I love reading.
To commemorate the day, the library had special activities for children and adults. In Grand Island, Ana Ruth Lugo Mejia, New Channel, Nebraska.
Workers in hard hats have been replaced by students wearing backpacks at the University of Nebraska Kearney's Calvin T. Ryan Library. After 2 years worth of construction, UNK cut the ribbon last week on a $25 million renovation of its library. The 100,000 square foot building still had most of the furnishings from its last update in 1982, and many of the mechanical systems were starting to fail. Dean of the library, Evan Boyd, says he's seen a big uptick in student usage since the renovation finished.
It makes me feel great that we have a full building most of the time. It means the work we've done has been right. It means that we're going to be helping students succeed.
The new look space follows the trend of modern academic libraries, emphasizes light and open spaces, includes a greater focus on providing services than just storing a massive collection of books. Aaron Estes is Senior Director of the Loper Success Center and coordinates many of those services out of the library's second floor.
It allows us to be more holistic in the way we support students, and it allows us to be more collaborative in our approach to supporting those students.
It now features the art installation Cumulate. It's in the east entrance and the central atrium and includes elements of Nebraska poetry and the colors of a Nebraska sunset. And Halloween spending expected to reach $11.6 billion in the U.S. this year. That's according to a National Retail Federation survey. That's a big number, but not as much as last year, when a record-setting $12.2 billion was spent on Halloween. The primary drivers of Halloween, pretty obvious: candy, decorations, and costumes. Consumers say they expect to spend an average of about $103.63 per person. You can stay up to date with the very latest by following us online. Head to newschannelnebraska.com. Click on the news tab there. You can also follow us on X, like us on Facebook and Instagram as well. Thanks for joining us. Have a great day. You're watching News Channel Nebraska.